Hi guys and gals, Froggy here. It's the day after Thanksgiving. Happy day after Thanksgiving to everybody. It's been requested and I am going to put up a video on how to reinstall the dash. So, first thing is I got some shelf paper from Walmart, like the cheapest paper they sell. It doesn't stick very well and that's okay, that's what I want. And that's just to prevent damage to the finish when I shove the dash back in. Also some painter's tape. And what you want to do is make sure your steering console or steering wheel, is dropped all the way, because you would have dropped it to take the dash out, but I put mine back up because I needed to drive the car a little bit, so I dropped it back down, taped up the steering wheel, took off the shift knob, put the parking brake down, and now I'm going to take my first attempt at trying to maneuver it back in there. I've got my shelf paper and my tape on handy in case I need to tape up any other little parts. I'm going to try not to scratch up too much of my refinishing work, but you know, you might need to touch it up at the end. That's okay. So we're coming in from the passenger side, and you can see I've already leaned it up against the speaker, which might have scratched something there, but I got a piece of shelf paper there. Coming in from the passenger side, we got to get over the wheel. We got to plug in those 5 orange points there with the places on the dash. You can see them that plug in. And well, let's give it a try. One other thing that I did, I left some HVAC ductwork semi-attached here when I took it out, because it didn't really need to get detached, and so I've already got them in the right location, so that's one less thing I have to worry about. So I'll have to jiggle them around a little bit as I go in. So to get the driver's side long piece past the steering wheel, I'm going on this side of the steering wheel, and then I'm going to drop it down in over there. First try, I backed up and I decided to tape up these corners where the 2 very cornermost dash vents are there, and that one way down there. Sorry, you can't see it very well, but it's the very outermost dash vents, because I can tell they were hitting. Okay, so here's the maneuver. I put the turn signal down, and the whole thing, you get the one corner on the end there around the wheel, then there's a tab that has to come around the wheel, so you kind of angle it a little bit. You get the corner, you get the tab, and then once you've got that whole housing that surrounds your instrument panel, that's like the tricky move right there. And then let me figure out the rest. Okay, I kind of forced it, bent it. Actually, if I had gone down like that with that wiper stock, it probably would have been easier. So put your wiper stock all the way down. And now you can see I'm around both sides of the steering column. And now I just got to think about these ducts that I left in there and make sure they end up in the right place. And then I'll start shoving it forward to plug it into those orange connectors. What I did with a few of the screws, nuts, bolts, and screws at the end, instead of bagging them, I just put a piece of tape around them and I wrote on it that says passenger dash near console nav area holds dash to drive to silver tube. Holds dash to silver tube. And the silver tube is that silver tube. So do this for yourself. And then here's the cool thing. When I got back to put it back together, I just stuck them up on the windshield, and as I need them, I can pull them off and screw them in. So that's working out pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to take a little shot every now and then as I go through this process. What I had to do is this little, right there, this little bracket that I took apart on the way out, I put that back in, and that kind of held the dash in a nice place. And I wanted to get one click on this fastener to hold it in place also. I put this dash vent part back together. It's just a slip fit. And then you gotta make sure you get this vent there. That vent goes into that. All right, make sure that's just a slip fit. It just slips over there. Make sure that's lined up. And then there's a tab here where my finger's wiggling. This has to go outside of that tab. But that'll get you started on the passenger side. As you go along, there's going to be a lot of wire bundles that have fallen out of where they need to be. So fish them out and make sure they come out through the holes they need to come out, and they're not, laying back there stuck, holding the dash so that it can't plug in. Depending on how you took yours apart, there are going to be a few miscellaneous screws. Either I took them out and you didn't, or you took them out and I didn't. But you want the dash to fit pretty easily right up and pop into those 5 bits. Like that one is the only one that shows. What I've been doing is just kind of feeling it around, moving a little wire bundle if I need to. I've got it pretty good so that I can start slapping the pieces back in now. I think I'll put the airbag in next. I was having a little trouble dropping in the airbag. When you go to drop it in, put the back in first, and then don't go like straight down on the front. Pull it forward a little bit by putting your fingertips behind there. Pull it forward and then press down and back. It kind of slots in that way. Okay, let me get you caught up. So I told you about how to get this airbag set in there. So you got those 4 brassy colored, there's 2 bolts and 2 nuts. I showed you pretty good pictures of them coming out, so I'm not going to go under there and show you again. Look at the dash coming out video if you want to review that. The airbag has to be plugged in. Here's one end of it here. I put it up over the top of a bracket here, and it's already plugged in, but it's this wire loom here. It can only go in one way, and make sure you hear it snap. And then this is for the glove box light. So airbag is in, and I'm going to go back to my video then and tracing it backwards to see what comes next. This was like mostly on the front end, and then I finally popped it out at the tail end. So this was a little bit out of sequence. So you'll have to piece it together. I added some more protective tape as I went along. If I saw something that I was kind of rubbing up against too hard, like when I was putting the airbag in, I just put some tape on it, save the finish. This is a ground for the nav unit. So if you don't have nav, you won't have this, but that goes right there, right in the middle of the screen. Goes right there. Plugs into the nav. Okay, let's put the instrument cluster in. It's got one nut that holds the dash to that big reinforcing bar, and then it's got 3 screws. One right there, and 2 and 3. They're just like sheet metal screws. Okay, there's the nut, and there's the 3 screws. And 2 connectors. Well, that was a screw up. And Froggy doesn't do things over to show you how I can do stuff without making mistakes. I made a mistake. These are supposed to come out over on the top here. So I'm going to have to undo this. I hope I can snake them through some place here without having to pull the dash towards the driver. But we'll see. Here we go. Well, after fighting it for a while and donating some blood, here's what I did. I pulled this part of the dash up so it was resting on this head of this bolt so it would stay there and give me space. Then I was fighting and fighting to get it through here. But if you go way over on the end, it'll be easy because you've got enough wire loom to do that. So that's the easy way over there. If you want to do it the hard way, try to get it through there. Anyway, there you go. Let's put that instrument cluster back in. Okie dokie, it's in. What next? Let's go put my other video in reverse and figure out. Okay, we're going to go with the A-pillars, the covers for the airbags in the A-pillars next. That's pretty much about the next thing. There's a slot on the A-pillar, and this piece on the cover goes into that slot, and then there's a unusual looking bolt that holds that in, and the whole thing kind of slides down, covering the airbag. Remember, when you put these on, there's a big hole at the bottom, so shove it down, get it in that hole, pull it back up like about a ½ an inch, I would say, to get your alignment on this bolt here. Okay? Okay, next thing we're going to do is this this weather stripping type trim that we had to pull away from the dash. So we're going to just kind of, it goes, you know, you kind of line it up, and I think I'm going to tap it with a little hammer, a little rubber mallet, not a heavy hammer, not a metal hammer, but tap it in, and you know, it goes all the way around the door. So let's do that. Actually, what I ended up doing, I think is a little better, is taking a little piece of 2x4 and put that up against the weather stripping, and then tap it, you know, like that, what I just showed you. That way it spreads out the pressure, but it gives it a good hard smack, and you don't have to worry about slipping with the hammer when you're doing it around this nice refinish section. So do it that way. Alright, so I'm starting to run out of daylight, and also I'm getting tired. So this all was day one of putting the dash back in. Obviously it's much faster than taking it apart, because when I took it apart, I didn't know how to take it apart, except for some directions which were pretty good, but not every single thing was covered. And now putting it back together, it's a lot easier. Anyway, this is the passenger side kick panel. It's pretty simple. It's got one fastener there, one fastener there, and that one's actually a push-on. Let's see. Yeah, one small machine bolt and a push-on fastener. Right in there. There they are. So, let's get that done. What I had in my bag for the passenger kick panel, actually the bolt, it holds this bottommost part of the dash to a brace here, and the kick panel really only has this one thing, and then the other end of it just kind of sticks down there, and then it's going to get covered over by a panel here. Okay, guys and gals, this is day 2 of the reinstalling, and I'm going to step backwards just a little bit These are the covers for the side curtain airbags, the A-pillar airbags, and you probably are going to get some of this sticky black stuff that comes off of the dash onto these. When you take them out and you put them back in, you have to shove down and then pull back a little bit. Anyway, you can see it right there. And this is one that I cleaned up. What I use to clean it up is a couple of things. Turtle wax, carpet and mat cleaner, and I also use some Pro Thinner. And they both work. Just be careful, don't soak it, just use the right amount, use your judgment, and it should clean up pretty good. Okay, so now next I'm putting these little plastic sill covers back. They snap in 1, 2, 3, and then there's two little end pieces that go in like there and like there. One end is wide and the other end is narrow, so that's how you can tell. The wide end, you see it there, and the narrow end. Okay, be careful when you beat on these end ones. If they're not in the hole, you can bend over the two little tabs and you can bend them out of shape or maybe even break them. So I think I bent one out of shape here, but it's holding pretty good. Right there in my lap, that's the surround for the gauges. That's what I'm going to do next. It has one connection there for the dimmer switch, and it has 2 screws, I think. It's got 2 screws there. And let's see what I've got taped up is 2 screws. I just dropped one, but 2 screws here. So if it seems like I'm kind of jumping around, you can do this in some other order if you want to. I'm just playing back my disassembly and doing things in that order. The surround for the gauge snaps on, and make sure your ignition switch pokes through correctly. Okay, surround back on. This is the top cover of the steering column, and you can see it has one snap right in the middle there, and it just fits right over everything. Some of these plastic parts, this one in particular, I'm giving it a good treatment of some kind of plastic restorer. I used some McGuire's quick interior detail on this, and then I tried some Mother's Back to Black, but that didn't look so good. That was kind of an exterior thing anyway, but give this some kind of treatment because it's an area that gets neglected for the most part. You can make it look nice again. 14 millimeter for your steering column, 4 nuts. There's one right in the middle of the screen, and there's the other one there in the middle of the screen. And you'll need a deep socket for the other ones that are deeper. Let's see if I can show you one of them. Where are you? There's a spring. Oh yeah, there's a spring that's right a little bit in the way, right there in the middle of your screen. That's one of the deep ones. Okay. This is the next panel I'm going to put back in. This is a closeout panel directly under the steering column. A lot of things have to drop through or connect to this. That's the OBD2 sensor. This is for the memory settings, and that one's not used. Over here is that thing that I told you in the disassembly that it was like an air hose, and another electrical connection there. Okay, so that's going back in next, and I've got 3 screws and then all those other things to go through. make sure you pull these two connections through this hole in the dash before you connect them up. To reattach the parking brake cable, what I did is I took a pair of needle nose pliers right there, and I pulled as much slack in the cable as I could get. And when you pull slack in the cable, then you can maneuver the little piece on the end, which it shows up in a bunch of the other videos, but I don't have a picture of it right now. But it's like a little lead slug that goes through a steel braided cable. And that has to go through a fitted piece here, and the way you get slack in it is what I just told you with the needle nose pliers. And then when you put this closeout panel back, hook this inside of this piece before you put it on, otherwise you're going to be left with the thing stuck on the outside. So hook this first, then snap all your snaps, and then your 3 screws. Finish under the steering column with this piece, just 3 screws, and then it'll finish that side pretty much. Turn the key to unlock the steering wheel, and then turn the steering wheel to get at that screw, and turn it whatever way you need to get to the other side screw. Okay, let's do the center stack. So this is my car. Yours might be different. Up here's the nav unit. We've got 2 big plugs and a ground. Next is, let's see, this is the HVAC. These 2 plugs go into there on the HVAC. Going down, this is the back of the head unit. These are the back of the head unit. And as I already explained, the back of my head unit has 2 places to plug in harnesses, but only 1 harness to go in it. So go figure. Anyway, and the bottom 3 plugs are for this panel here. Okay, so I'm going to do the head unit first, and I think this slides in, and then I'll do the nav last. I taped up just so I didn't want to, you know. Okay, so what I did was kind of rest it down here because it's a heavy thing. Got all my plugs in, and then just lay it up in there. It's 4 screws on each of the 4 corners. Okay, so I tightened down the 4 bolts, and I tried all the functions. 6-disc changer, it loads, it ejects, it plays the disc. It's got AM, it's got FM, and tape. I don't have a tape, so I don't know. Maybe it'll play a tape, but I'm not worried about that. This would change the disc, so all those functions are working, I guess. Let's move on. Okay, we're going to put this, everybody calls it the track panel. It's got seat heaters on it if you ordered them with your car. And those are the 3 plugs. Okay, pretty easy there. If you watched my removal video, you know I took this vent out. I was lucky I didn't break it when I pried it out, but somehow or another I pried it out. I was looking for how to release the nav. And it was very difficult to get this vent back in. What I had ended up doing is doing it from the back. There's 2 snaps there, 2 snaps on the other side, and then there's some more snaps that hold the 2 of them together, and then this part here that moves the directional vane inside, those are connected, so it's kind of a big deal, and I really didn't take time to film it. But if anybody has trouble with these vents, you can post a question on the video, and I check all my questions, so I'll get back to you. Okay, now I just got to stick this back in. It's 2 screws and then some snaps and some connectors in the back. This part should be easy. when you tape off, don't overlap it too much, or you're gonna have a little trouble pulling it out like I am. All right, phew, we got the stack in. All we got left is the console. I don't know if I'm gonna do it today or not. I put the glove box back in. There's one brassy screw. You have to line up that latch. There's two little cutouts. Line the latch up, and then there's one place for the screw there, and there's also one screw right there, 10mm, and then your glove box is back. You know what, guys and gals, I'm gonna call this done. I just drove it, everything works. It's dusk, so this is not gonna be a great beauty shot for the finish, but I'm tired and I'm just gonna do it. So there's the dash, refinished. You know, some things I didn't refinish, like the top of the GPS, because it was okay. And I haven't wiped it yet. It's got a little dust on it. And I didn't refinish the glove box because it was okay. I've still got the console to go, but I'm going to do that as a separate reinstalling a console. Okay, I think that makes more sense because they really are two separate jobs. So, give me a thumbs up or a like if this helps you out. Subscribe to my channel if you want more from Froggy. And you guys have a fun, safe weekend. See ya. Froggy out. Bye-bye. Well, I am pretty proud of how this came out. So here's a picture the next day with some better lighting. So passenger side, obviously. Remember, the console's still out, so if you see some mess there down by the console, don't worry about it. Oh, I'll show you the other side. I got a only little touch-up I've got here is that little bit right there. I'll just touch that up. These were really terrible here. And, of course, that was terrible right there. So there you go. Give me a thumbs up or a like. Subscribe to my channel. Post comments. Ask questions. See you later. Froggy out.